This episode of Philly Fame TV is sponsored by Top Dog Law. Now y'all already know who to call for any accidents or injury cases. If you want that top dollar, you better get at Top Dog. You can hit him up on Instagram at Top Dog Law or visit his website www.topdoglaw.com.
Peace, y'all. It's Mike Africa Jr. You're tuned in to Philly Fame TV.
Philly Fame. Philly Fame.
All right, Mike Africa Jr. What's up with you, good brother? Pleasure to have you on Philly Fame TV, man. First and foremost, how you feeling today, good brother?
It's a good day, bro. Every day is a good day. Any day, how they say, any day above ground is a good day.
Right. Now, for those of a certain age, of a certain era from Philadelphia, you know the last name Africa, you know, it's a legendary historical last name in the city. And as we stand today, we right here, you know, down the street from Osage Avenue, right next to the memorial piece they got behind us, dedicated to the bombing that happened on May 13th. And the anniversary is coming up soon, which is why part of the reason why I wanted to have you on. So, you know, just briefly explain to the people, you know, because you Mike Africa Jr., so obviously your pop is Mike Africa Sr., and you know your mother, both of them, you know, they served 40 years in prison. Your mom 39 and some change, your dad 40 and some change. I actually just finished watching a documentary on HBO Max, 40 Years of Prison, a great piece of work, by the way. And you know, it followed you in your journey, you know, talking about what happened, you know, in that situation. It followed you, you know, trying to free your parents. And, you know, and we're going to get more into that story. I want to touch on that when we get to, you know, Politan Ave. But let's focus on the bombing. I want you to, you know, briefly, you know, run down to the people, you know, that day, that experience, you know, anything you want to share from that.
May 13th, 1985, the Philadelphia Police Department dropped the bomb on MOVE. They killed 11 people, 5 of them were children. The MOVE organization, revolutionary organization, kind of like the Black Panthers and a mixture of Earth First, Animal Liberation Front. MOVE is kind of like a mixture. So like the mission is like to protect life, people, animals, and the environment, right? But MOVE has a really complicated history because the members of the organization and the founder himself, John Africa, were very aggressive in how they delivered the message. And that like kind of approach was kind of clashing with the city of Philadelphia and the police, because the police, led by Frank Rizzo, same, aggressive, brutal, and the clash, it just really clashed. And there was a lot of incidents and skirmishes that created like these fights and this jail time and unjust prison sentences and beatings.
And it started back in the late 1970s.
It started in the early 1970s.
Early 1970s, correct. Sorry, my bad.
And it led up to a culmination of the police dropping a bomb and killing 11 people. And as the people were trying to escape this bomb, this fire that happened, the police were shooting at them as they were trying to escape. Some of the people were shot. And then after that, all these people died. Then their bodies were put in a museum and put on display and used as research material without consent, and all this crazy stuff by University of Penn and and Princeton University. MOVE has a very, very complicated, complex, violent history with the city of Philadelphia's officials. And May 13th is the worst example of it.
Right. And we coming up on the 38th year anniversary of that particular incident. And Kevin Hart and Charlamagne Tha God actually produced a documentary about that.
A podcast.
Oh, a podcast. It was a podcast, because I didn't get a chance to check it out yet. I seen the one on HBO Max.
Kevin Hart and Charlamagne executive produced a docu podcast called Summer of '85, and I'm featured in that podcast. And part of the podcast mostly focuses on what happened in 1985 between May 13th and I think it was July the 13th, which was Live Aid. Live Aid was a concert that was supposed to raise awareness around AIDS. And It was originally scheduled to be in either New York or Los Angeles. But because city of Philadelphia had just dropped the bomb, they encouraged the producers of Live Aid to have it here so that they could take away from the depression that the city of Philadelphia was feeling after this bomb. Wilson Good actually told the producer of Live Aid that if you do it in the city of Philadelphia, we will give you the venue for free. We will make sure that you do not have to pay to do it here. Whereas if they did it in LA or New York or any other city, they would have to pay to rent the buildings, the stadiums or whatever. They would have to pay for the police presence and security and bathrooms or whatever. But Wilson Good told him, if you do it here, we'll give it to you for free, just to keep it away. So Live Aid focuses mostly on how the bombing was intentionally covered up by a concert.
Wow, that's crazy, bro. That's very interesting.
So my great uncle, his name was Vincent Leapart, and he changed his name to John Africa.
Okay, that was your great uncle. Okay, John Africa.
My great uncle. Half the organization is my blood family, including.
So y'all are blood related. I didn't know that either.
Not all of us are blood related.
Right, but a lot of them was. Okay.
About half of my family were original members, and the founder, John Africa, is my uncle.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
He started the organization because, see, he was a Korean War veteran. And he saw the destruction of life and animals killed, burned, people shot, dead for no reason, just money, greed. And he felt that something needed to be done about these issues. And he saw Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he saw Malcolm X, and he wanted to do something too, but he wanted to make sure that he included the animals that were suffering too in these zoos. He would say animals don't belong in prison, just like black people didn't belong to be made slaves. We weren't supposed to be put on those slave ships and shackled and chained, just like animals aren't supposed to be put on those slave ships and shackled and chained. So, and he talked about the environment and how the water's polluted. And when he would talk about these things, more people would hear what he had to say, and then eventually it became a group. And the mission was simple: protect life, people, animals, and the environment.
And this was the early 70s.
1967, 70, and it really kind of surfaced in like 72, 73.
Gotcha.
That's how it kind of started. So when members would see animals in the street that got hit by a car that died, they would find something to pick them up, put them in the grass in the park, make sure they have a proper burial spot or something. I'm talking about, we couldn't go on a trip without stopping the car or the bicycle or whatever 5-10 times to pick animals up and help them out. Anybody that was being abused or hurt in the neighborhood that people could go talk to, they would. And hearing the information of John Africa, people were very enthused and fired up. We're fighting a system of injustice. We're coming off of the Black Panther movement and how they took up arms and fought against oppression. And so Move was like, yeah, we should be doing that too. So they were doing that too.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was interesting history. As far as the background, I never heard all of that actual background history. So your parents was a part of that, and it was a significant event that happened on, I believe it was 1978, where a baby was killed. I think one of the Move members was holding the baby in their arms. I believe from the documentary, it was a day they said some of their members got out of jail. They went to pick them up. They took them to the house in West Philly. They were celebrating, chilling. Then the cops came and was rushing them, and they ended up throwing the lady on the ground, and the baby died. And that kind of was the beginning of the start between the issue between the police and the city versus the Move organization. That correct to say? Was that the beginning?
So no. That was something that happened in 1976.
Oh, 76. I remember.
When that whole thing and that whole situation is unclear about that whole situation is unclear because the police is trying to say Move that didn't happen, and Move is saying that did happen. Where's the proof and all of this kind of stuff? And it's like the city always try to say that Move is lying about things, and Move is always saying the city is lying about things. But we have certainly and surely pictures of bodies, babies' bodies, from pregnant women that were beaten, and then their babies born with black and blue bruises all over their bodies.
Dang.
We have pictures of that. We have evidence of that. We have the police reports of that. We have the judge's statements from that. That was like one of the things that led up to MOVE in an armed stance saying, you come at us with fists, we'll fight you with fists. You come at us with clubs, we'll fight you with clubs. You come in here shooting and killing our children and our men and our women, and we will shoot back in defense of our lives. And that standoff led to the police getting a warrant from a judge to say MOVE had to leave this house. MOVE, an agreement with the city, MOVE say, okay, we'll leave, let our people out of prison and we'll leave. Then there's a whole backstory about that. You can watch all of that and get all of that information from 40 Years a Prisoner.
Right, on
That's
HBO
Max
yep.
right now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But that standoff led into a confrontation that resulted in a shootout, and MOVE members and police were shot. And in that shootout, one police officer was shot and killed. And of course, they blamed it on MOVE. And for that killing, 10 MOVE members were sentenced to nearly 1,000 years in jail, including my parents and my Uncle Chuck.
Crazy.
So MOVE members were fighting to get those people out of prison, and they were pushing for the same treatment, the same fairness as some of these other people that were getting that, that respect. And as a result of their complaint, as a result of their protest, the city of Philadelphia came out and dropped the bomb on it.
Right, that was crazy. So I want to jump back a little bit. So prior to the confrontation where the cop got shot, it was something else, a significant event that happened before that. Where initially, when MOVE was barricaded the house initially. They barricaded themselves in the house and all of that. And they initially was demanding that some MOVE members be released from jail. I forgot what they was locked up for initially. But some MOVE members was locked up before and framed, I guess, for something. And the MOVE people was trying to get them out of jail. So when they was barricaded on the block, I think this was the Powhatan Ave block house. They was barricaded over there. The cops were trying to get them out. They made the demands. It got so big, long story short, it got so big in the city that the city officials basically caved in the MOVE and gave in to their demands and released their people from prison and gave them everything that they wanted. And then MOVE was actually living and chilling and thriving for a period of time. They was cool. And then they came and tried to evict them out the house. Like, so that's what I got from the documentary. So that was like a crazy situation, like, cause they was cool and everything was fine, and then out of nowhere they just like, all right, now y'all gotta get out, like.
Yeah, there was an agreement in place where MOVE had to move, and they had to relocate the 50 dogs they had.
Right, cause they had a lot of animals. They take care of animals.
A lot of animals.
Yeah.
And the people, the city's part of that was to free the MOVE political prisoners. Conrad, Jerry, and Bob. And the city did. I don't know if it was the first time in history. I don't know if it was the last time in history. But I know it's definitely etched in the city's history where they released political prisoners unconditionally.
And he said the only demand that wasn't met was they wanted President Jimmy Carter to fly with a helicopter.
He said, but come in a helicopter, yeah. Escort MOVE members home.
Yeah. They said out of everything else, that was the only thing. So they said they pretty much got everything else they wanted. And that was, to me, that was crazy and significant because that was unheard of, and that's something I didn't know that happened. Like, so they so they actually had some success with what they was doing, like prior to all of this happening.
Yeah, I mean, the system is controlled by pressure. And if there's enough pressure, enough people complaining and applying pressure in the right places, they'll give in.
Right.
Because they need the people. The system cannot function without the people. And if the people decide that they ain't doing this no more, it won't happen. If Jeff Bezos can have all the money he wants, but if all the Amazon workers say we ain't doing this no more, we quit, he ain't got much of a business.
Right.
And that's just how it is. So in the city, when you get a certain amount of pressure applied on things, they will cave.
And that's why they turned up the pressure to do what they did. No, that make a whole lot of sense.
And now we're going to take a quick commercial break, give y'all a word from one of our local sponsors. This episode of Philly F.A.M.E TV is brought to you by 1212 plant-based hair care products. These products are good for men and women and best used in barbershops and hair salons. You can pick up some 1212 products at Hairbuzz and Hairtown in Philadelphia. Also shop online, 12haircare.com for all deliveries. Now back to regular scheduled programming.
So it's crazy because, so let's fast forward back to the situation that happened with the shootout and the cop getting killed, and the 9 or 10 members getting locked up and charged for it and sentenced for it. 2 of them being your parents, your mother and your father. And what make your now this beginning of your story, because you weren't born yet, but when he got locked up, your mother was pregnant.
Right.
So now what make this significant, because you like one of the people that I guess can have the same story as far as origin story as like a Tupac Shakur, as far as being born in prison.
Yeah, just like the Africa family, there's a Shakur family. And they went through some of the same things.
Similar thing. Mother was
Africa
a revolutionary, father, all that. Same story, bro. Know what I mean? So that's kind of crazy.
Same story with the same oppression. Same thing.
Right. Because the movement started off, like you said, it was a spinoff based on what the Panthers was doing, but initially they wasn't on no picking up guns and defend ourselves by any means at first. It was more so like, we gonna live off the earth, eat raw foods. I mean, we're not going. They was early on staying away from processed foods. If you look at how the world is now, they was early on, not eating processed food, taking care of each other, loving all people, loving all animals. So this was considered like radical at the time. So and on the documentary, somebody made a comment that I thought was interesting. They said what kind of made it a little easier for Rizzo and them to do what they did was because the way the move people were perceived, not just by white people, but by black people. Because it was early in the 70s at the time when they was living how they was living, they said that black people at the time, a lot of black people didn't really understand what they, it didn't really
side with us.
So speak a little bit on that, because I thought that was interesting. I didn't think about it, but if you think about the time, and then like a lot of black people wasn't on that at the time.
A lot of black people ain't on it now.
Yeah, ain't on it now. So if you look at how the world is now, you could imagine how they was. So speak on that, how black people kind of play a role, like indirectly and like unintentionally, and kind of what happened to move by the lack of support that they got from.
Well, it's not really that. I mean, I think as this thing has evolved and unfolded, a lot of people played a part in what happened, including Move. You know what I'm saying? We ain't the same people we were in 1972. We've learned a lot. As a parent of a 24-year-old child, or no, as a parent of a 24-year-old man, if I could start over and he be a year old again, and I start from the beginning, I would love to have that opportunity to start over. And I'm sure by the time he was 24 again, I would love to be able to start over. It's the same with Move. Move didn't do everything right, and the black community was definitely rubbed the wrong way in a lot of ways, because Move was so charged up by what was happening. It was like it was hard to contain that frustration. People had died. People had been put in prison unjustly, and they were so charged up and they were so angry.
Police brutality.
Yeah. Understandably so. But there was a lack of wisdom to harness that energy and conduct it in a way that could have gathered more support from the black community and from the surrounding community. That's not to say that some of the black community were not Uncle Toms, because they were. But in a lot of situations, that could have been handled a lot better. A lot better. I don't want people to think that the black people in the community were just anti-Move. They weren't. It's just the situation created that conflict and made it worse. And it made it even worse when Wilson Goode became the black mayor. See, when it was Rizzo who was running the show, and people could see that it was obviously racism happening, that was one thing. But when they put Rizzo aside and made Wilson Good the mayor, now you got a split. You got some people that agree with Move, but they ain't trying to go against their first black mayor, and then you got the other side. So it created the conflict, and the city, the system itself, nurtured that conflict. They fanned that flame and made it worse than it would have been.
Right. And the media definitely played a part too in like fanning the flames and making, causing division between and causing stirring up trouble to get them to move on, the Move organization, so to speak. Like
the media has a major effect on the thinking of the public.
Right.
If the news media writes on the front page of their newspaper, the Philadelphia water crisis is over. The water is now safe to drink. People are going to drink the water.
Right.
They're going to take their word for it. They're not going to go to the plant in Ben Salem and see if that's actually true. When the news media says housing markets is skyrocketing, people believe that. They don't check the market unless they're in that field. They don't just check that market, they take their word for it. When a shootout happens and a cop is killed and the news media writes on the front page of the paper, "Oh my God, they shot a cop," they've already convicted Move as murderers before they even went to trial.
Wow. I didn't even know that happened. That was crazy. That was the headline?
That was the headline. So
wow.
The news media played a major role in the tense and contention between Move and the city. Absolutely.
Wow.
And if there's ever to be a class action or a lawsuit against these entities for the bombing of Move, you cannot exclude the news media and their role in that tragedy.
For sure. For sure. And it's crazy because I'm going to jump around this a little bit. Because I want to jump back to that day where the shooting happened and the cop died and all that. And, and Move members got charged for it and convicted. So what happened was, based on the documentary, what I seen was they seen that, the cops it seemed like they had to stand up outside, and then all of a sudden you heard a shot out of nowhere, and then the cops just start firing. Now, from my perspective, it looked like a little conspiracy, like they tried to take them out too, because in the aftermath, once they burned the guns out and all of that, mind you, they flooded the house with water from the fire hose and all that, and they burned the guns out. It was people in the documentary saying like the guns look super clean coming out of that basement, so it looked like it was just like a whole big setup. I mean, like, whereas though the cop probably shot him. It was like friendly fire, and they blamed it on Move and got them convicted. Now fast forward, because they destroyed the house right away. So what, to get rid of any evidence or whatever behind, so they could just paint the narrative how they wanted to. Now in the documentary, it featured you and your story and getting your parents out, so it kind of stopped once your parents come home. So the part that I didn't know and connect was, after the Powelton Ave house, how did they end up getting how did the Osage situation, where did that come from? Like, after the Powelton Ave, they came over to move the Osage and started the house over here? Like, how did that work?
Well, as part of the agreement, Move had to move.
Oh, all right. So did they
some of them relocated.
Okay, gotcha.
And eventually found their way here.
Gotcha. So was this like a headquarters right here? This was the headquarters?
Well, the headquarters was where Everjohn Africa was.
Okay.
That's basically what it was. I mean, meet at the headquarters. That's where he's at. That's where you go.
Gotcha. So this was like the main Move house on this block at the time, because a lot of people was in there.
We always had a lot of houses. People say Move was they had a commune, the Move commune. They all lived together communally. That's not true. We got a dozen houses, even back then.
So that's a misconception you clearing up. I mean, like, that's something I didn't know. I mean,
commune. There was a time when the police were surveilling our house, and they had the armed police standing at our house with the guns trained on our house type thing at our headquarters. And that kind of situation, many people would go into the headquarters to stay for a while for security. But we never lived all communally in one place, ever.
Wow.
Even during those times.
Wow.
We always had 10 houses. We still do.
It was a lot more members than they made it seem like. Got you.
I mean, just off the top of my head, I can think of 10 houses that we owned. And back then too. So it was never communally like that. And even within the house, we didn't live communally. Even within the houses were apartments. First floor has a kitchen, a bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. The second floor had 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a kitchen. The third floor had 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. So even then they weren't communal. It was apartments.
Wow.
They have certain words that they are familiar with, and they just attach them to us as if they're accurate just because that's what they're familiar with. It's like when you say, we believe in eating raw food. They automatically think we're vegetarian. You don't have to be a vegetarian just because you eat your stuff raw. Didn't you see Rocky?
Right, the raw eggs and all that.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So like they just have these assumptions when they hear certain things. Or they say, well, Move don't believe in soap. So they think you're dirty. You think people how old is soap? People did a lot of, you can clean all kind of ways to clean yourself without some damn soap. Just because you don't use soap don't mean you don't take a bath. But they have all of these misconceptions and preconceptions, and they label us, and then they box us, and then they say, well, this is what it is. Move hair is long like that because they don't believe in combing their hair because they can't afford to comb. They dirty, they poor, whatever. Half the organization, these people weren't poor. You got nurses, you got architects, draftsmen, mail carriers, professional football players, the organization, sociologists. These people were not poor. But because they threw away combs, because washing wearing your hair naturally is better for yourself, it's better for the environment, it's better for your health, whatever. Well, but they see it as dirty, so they must say, well, you must be poor. It's just misconceptions.
Wow, that's deep. All right, so let's touch back to Osage right here. Do you know of a particular reason of why they targeted this particular house, being as though y'all had multiple houses and y'all live in multiple places? Like, is there a particular reason why they targeted this one right here?
Yeah, because this is the one that had John Africa.
Oh, so they was targeting him there.
They wanted him. Yeah. They didn't care about nobody else. They wanted to get rid of him. And they wanted to be, because this house had a bullhorn strapped to it, and there was a lot of protests here to get the people out of prison. So because this one made the most noise, this is the one that got the most attacked.
Got you. Drew the most attention.
Oh yeah.
Got you. All right, so now you clearing up some misconceptions for sure. Like, that's why I'm glad we doing this. There's a lot of stuff about this situation that I didn't know, and I'm sure some people that's watching this probably didn't know. So let's jump back to your parents a little bit in your story with that, because you was fairly young when they got locked up. How old were you?
Young. I wasn't born.
Oh yeah, you weren't. I forgot. You was born in prison.
I was born in the jail
so
cell.
Then when you was born, they took you away from your mom immediately. So you ain't really get the chance to, the typical things how young infants.
I got 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days. That's crazy.
That's it.
3 days, and you taken away from your mom immediately. And it's crazy because your mom separated from your dad. They separated from each other. They're in separate prisons, or separated in the prison. I don't know if they was in different prisons.
Different prisons.
All right, because I know your mom was in house corrections. Yeah, your mom was in house corrections initially, and then your pop was in a different prison. So they separated, and then you separated from both of them. So now you growing up, going to prison, having to go visit your parents. And then you spent like a good majority of your life fighting to get your parents out of prison. So just give people that, because you lived a very unique life in that regard. And I mean, so give people that rundown how you grew up like that.
I'm so proud of myself. I be thinking about this shit.
I'm proud of you too, brother. Watching that documentary, man, salute. I mean, like,
I be like, it's hard to believe this shit's me. I'm like, I was 13 years old. It wasn't my choice. Wasn't my thing. Wasn't my decision at all, but I was 13 years old in lawyers' offices trying to strategize on how to get my parents out of prison.
13.
I was 13 years old, carrying newspapers and picking up money from Kenny Gamble and
the legendary
and donation money for the Move newspaper and Sonia Sanchez and some of these people that I thought of, I didn't even know who they were at the time, but I learned later that these are legendary, powerful people, respected people, authentic, true people in the city of Philadelphia. Man, I was 13 years old, riding down Broad Street, you know, on the back of rider trucks, screaming "Freedom Move 9," writing letters to the prison system, talking about free my parents. It's hard to believe it's true, but that's how Move raised me. You know, if you want something done, you can pray about it, you can talk about it, you can cry about it, you can complain about it, but it ain't gonna get done unless you do it. And that's what I did. Under the guidance of Ramona and Pam Africa and Sue in Alberta and a lot of other Move members, I don't even have good relationships with some of them people anymore. But they definitely pushed me out there to work on getting my parents out of prison. And that building relationships with people and lawyers, lawyer Brad Thompson and Brett Grody, man, we got that shit done. We didn't just get my parents out, but we got all of them out. Instead of them serving 1,000 years in jail, they still served a lot. They still served over almost 400 years collectively. But they didn't serve 1,000. From 13 years old, man.
That's crazy, bro. Let the ambulance go past. So, and I seen a lot of this was documented in a doc far as like towards the end when they actually was released and all that, and we're gonna get to that part. But I want to touch on like the struggle because they was denied parole, I think like 7 or 8 times each, if I ain't mistaken, like 7 times apiece.
They were denied for 9 years. They were denied parole for 9 years.
Crazy. And then when they finally came home, it was crazy because your mom came home first. And then that wasn't even, if she said something that was crazy, you know what I mean, to me, like, damn, that made me shed a tear. She was like, this ain't even us reuniting because we never was together.
Yeah.
So this like my first time, it's my first time really getting to know each other and meeting my son. And I mean, that was crazy because she been 39 and 39 some change in there 40 years, bro.
39
like,
and 10 months.
Crazy. So just briefly touch on, cause you like, this the best, when you first heard news, like the best news I ever heard in my life.
Hell yeah.
I mean, that was, I know that had to be a crazy experience, I mean, and then a year later, you know, it was documented showing your dad coming home.
Second member of the radical Back to Nature group Move was released from prison after serving more than 40 years behind bars for the 1978 shooting death of a Philadelphia police officer. The first member of the Move 9 was freed back in June. KYW News Radio reporter Cherry Gregg has the story from their home outside of Philadelphia.
Michael Africa Jr. is celebrating.
Every minute felt like
eternity.
On Monday, he picked up his father, Michael Sr. from SCI Phoenix. It's the first time the 40-year-old has ever seen his dad as a free man.
I'm still kind of shocked, much overwhelmed, but I'm very grateful to be here.
The senior Michael is part of the Move 9. They were involved in an altercation with police on August 8, 1978, that ended with the death of police officer James Ramp.
We didn't intend for anyone to be hurt.
9 members of Move, including Mike Sr.'s pregnant wife Debbie, were arrested and convicted of third-degree murder and sentenced to up to 100 years behind bars. Last June, Mike Jr., who was born behind bars, picked up his mother Debbie, and now he gets to see his parents together.
That was a good day. That was a good day.
John McNesby, president of the Philadelphia Fraternal Order of Police, gave the following statement: "We don't agree with anyone in this radical terrorist group being released. Our heart goes out to the Ramp family. We believe they should have spent their whole entire life in prison."
What happened on August 8th, what happened on May 13th was not a reflection of who we are.
So what's next for you?
We're just trying to move forward and free our people.
5 members of the Move 9 remain behind bars. 2 died behind the wall. Mike Jr. and Sr. say their main focus will be family.
If people want the fights, they got to go elsewhere.
And to live in peace. Cherry Gregg, KWW News Radio for CBS 3 Eyewitness.
And then I actually did shed a tear. And I mean, I'm keeping it real. Like when I seen them unite and hug each other, because I'm like, dang, because it hit you like they were separated for 40 years. No, this their first time seeing each other in 40 years, bro. That was crazy. Like, and then they was hugging and embracing each other, and they was smiling like they touched each other like they never. You could tell like it's like no time had passed. Like they picked up right where, and that was beautiful to see. And then it showed y'all 3 together. Like, so explain that, give them that rundown, like how, cause that's like unheard of, bro, for somebody to go. I mean, that's like
from somebody that you love, and you don't know what's going on with them. You can't protect them from sadistic guards. You can't see what somebody may be putting in their food. Being separated for somebody for 40 minutes could feel like an eternity. When my daughter first went to school, the administration, I had a talk with the administration about her life and her upbringing. She was homeschooled, but I decided to put her in the public school near where I live. And there was a point where the administration said they don't know where she is. For 4 minutes, we couldn't find her. That 4 minutes felt like forever. I can't imagine what my father must have felt being separated from his wife for 40 years. Being separated from his kids 40 years. Watching them grow up through pictures and learning about their personalities through other people telling him stories. But to see them come back together, there's one picture where they're hugging and you can see them, it's a nice little still shot of them hugging, and their faces are connected and their hair makes the shape of a heart. Can't make this shit up.
crazy.
Romeo and Juliet, Hove and B,
No, this was the craziest.
Will and
ending.
Jada,
Bro, this was the craziest ending to a story.
move over.
Man, and
Mike
like, this
and
a
Debbie,
movie. This a movie, bro. That
Next
was a
level
movie.
love.
That was a movie when I seen them connect. Like, oh my god, I was like, damn, that's deep, bro. Like, that was so deep to see that, man.
Beyonce mom tweeted about it, or Instagrammed about it.
Wow.
And Anthony Anderson did too. And who else? D.L. Hughley and a few other celebs.
That's dope, man. That's heavy. That's like monumental. Like, that's like that was like an unbelievable, like I said, ending to a crazy, I mean, not end, but like an end to a, for their, I mean, injustice and impression at that time, like being locked up all that time. Because mind you, they got locked up for killing a cop, allegedly, you know what I mean? So we already know, like based on the documentary, they say it's a conspiracy theory and it's up in the air if any of the MOVE people even did it. But let's just say they did. Like, they still all unfairly got sentenced and punished. They all got the same amount of time. 9 people for one, I mean, like, that's unheard of. And they all did the same time. They all stood tall, did their time. I mean, like, that was crazy, bro. Like, so salute to them, shout out to them. I mean, that was crazy for you to finally, I mean, experience that. That was dope, man. Fighting, like you said, since 13. And what age was you when it came out? How old was you?
I was almost 40.
Almost 40. Crazy, bro.
The first birthday that I ever had that my mom attended was when she came home. I would turn 40. She had only been home for a few months.
Crazy, man. Both of your parents, man. Like, that's crazy, man. Like, I mean, so like, let's touch on the upcoming anniversary. I mean, anything y'all got going on here at Osage, anything that people could know about, anything that people could do to come out, support, whatever, like, let it be known. Alright, is that the announcement right there? Let the people know what that is. But
that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. You gotta stay tuned.
Alright, so something going down that day.
Stay tuned.
So I mean, the people that see this, they could come out this day, May 13th.
Saturday, May 13th. Come see us.
All right, what is that? What time y'all going? I mean, what time they should pull up?
I think we're going. I'm not sure what time we're starting, but probably around like 10 a.m.
All right. So the address to the crib that
come to the MOVE marker at Osage. You know what's funny? I'm gonna show you something that's real funny. If you got your maps on your phone, type up 6221 Osage Avenue and watch what come up.
Do it right for those that's watching. Do it.
Type in 6221 Osage Avenue and watch what comes up.
So that day, May 13th, coming up, 38-year anniversary. We're gonna be out here. Big things going on, big announcement to be made. Make sure y'all pull up, check them out. Know what I mean? And pay homage to this, to the situation that happened.
To this work, because it ain't over.
Right.
It ain't over.
Right. That's another thing too I'm gonna get to. R.I.P. to all the people that lost their life, man. Like,
yeah. Never forget.
I mean, never forget. There you go.
Never forget.
1985, never forget. Like you said, like almost half of the people that died was kids, man. They always had a lot of kids in the house and taking care of the kids and the animals. Oh, you got all the names in there, all that on there. Let me see. Yeah, man. Never forget, man. Never forget.
And dig it. The kids that were in the house, if their parents hadn't been in prison like my parents, they might not have been in there. All of the kids that died in the house, parents were in prison.
Wow.
Janet.
Wow.
Delbert. Janine. Phil. Consuela. Sue. Their kids were the ones that died in the house.
Wow.
If their parents were not unjustly in prison, they might not have been in that house.
Man, oh man. That's crazy, bro. That's another part of the story I never knew. Wow, that's deep, man. R.I.P. to all of them, man. And shout out to all the shout out to the whole MOVE 9, man. They doing their time, they did a lot of time on behalf of the people, you know what I mean? Standing up for the people, doing what they was doing.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like, you guys pay homage and salute to them. That's another reason why I wanted to do this. And now let's touch on what's currently going on and what people can look forward to from the movement. Being through your family home, like I know they had plans and stuff they wanted to do when they came home. So like, what's going on with current times today?
Well, what I'm doing right now is I'm building a MOVE History Museum. I've already gotten a grant from a generous donor to put together an archive of MOVE history. Newspaper clippings, old documentary footage, radio programs that's on cassette tapes, oral histories from people like the brother you met earlier, George, and we're just compiling this information in preparation for a Move History Museum. That's what I'm working on right now.
Dope. And how can people, is there any way people can support you on that?
Hell yeah, go on www.mikeafricajr.com and you got to, if you want to donate, look, check this out. "50 Years on the Move." You can purchase this book. And learn about the history.
And go ahead, plug the site again, how they can get there.
www.mikeafricajr.com.
Go ahead, and while you at it, plug your IG too, so they can follow you, stay updated with what you got going on.
IG at Mike Africa Jr., Facebook at Mike Africa Jr. My Twitter got hacked by somebody in India. I don't know who. It just says somebody in India.
Is your parents active on social media?
No,
I know they older. They
no.
probably out. Yeah, they probably.
They don't do social media. I'm older. I don't do social media. But good morning. Oh, good afternoon. I'm old. I don't do social media, but they, so they really don't. My parents spent 4 years in prison, man. Cell phones didn't exist when they went to prison.
Right.
Cell phone. Walmart didn't exist. Home Depot, like this, so much stuff. They missed the whole mini disc CD player era.
They came onto a whole nother world.
I don't even think they had cassette tapes that much.
40 years, bro.
40 years, a long time to do anything.
Like real rap, like that's crazy. But salute to them, man. Hopefully they can, they live their life the rest of their days, peace and happiness, And is there anything else you want to let the people know before we get out of here, man? It's a long story. I can ask you 1,000 questions, bro. It's real deep. But they got the documentary out, so people can go watch that.
Go watch documentary on HBO Max. I'm going on tour this August 8th. Make 45 years of my people going to prison. I'm going on tour, a 3-month tour. Check me out on my website www.mikeafricajr.com, and I'll let you know all about it.
Right. And on that note,
and we can do a follow-up.
Yeah, we probably gonna have to, man. We probably gonna
come
have
out
to
on May 13th.
Yeah, May 13th. Yeah, that's what we gonna do. And on that note, for now, we signing out. In the meantime, Philly Fame TV, Mike Africa Jr., the movement still moving.
Still moving.
Get in tune with it. Also, before we get out of here, before I even sign out, I almost forgot, the podcast. Tell them about the podcast, man.
Oh, we trying to put together this podcast, man. It's a few key elements we still looking for to put together this podcast. I need a co-host that want to talk to me, and that we can talk and talk about these issues. It's all about inspiring people, educating people, and inspiring them to make a change from the education they learn.
Right.
And so I'm still looking to do this podcast.
Right. So you could dig more into some of the stuff that happened around the whole move situation. Like we said in this journal, it go beyond just the May 13th, 1985. There was a lot of stuff that happened way before that. They started way before that. It's a lot of history, a lot of stuff that they done that can get covered in this podcast. So be on the lookout for that. Coming soon. And we signing out for now. Philly Fame TV, Mike Africa Jr. We out of here.
Peace out.
The house new, remodeled, old block, way different. Way different. It's a whole different Osage. But that's the address, 6221. That's where it happened at. Now I know this obviously ain't your first time being here, but what was it like when you did first come here and see the house? What was that experience?
I don't like being here.
I can imagine, man.
Yeah, I don't like being here.
I can imagine. Crazy, man.
my way back.
Yeah, I know that's right, man.